We're going to talk about using if statements with ORs today. I'm going to create a project called Shared Password. And the idea of this one is if you and a friend, or maybe you and someone else are owners of a company, need to get at a safety deposit box or something like that, but you each have a unique password. Kind of like in movies, there's nuclear launch codes and both people need to turn their keys at the same time. We could do it like that, where both people had to put in the right password. If we did that, we would use an if statement and we would test to see if both things were true. In this case, it would be if both passwords equaled what they were supposed to be. But what if we wanted it so that only one password had to be right? They'd each have their own text box, or maybe there would be two possible passwords that each of them had, and only one of them had to be right, and then they would have access to that. And so what we have is a little different than what we did with the AND statement. So let me get my Word doc on the screen here. And this is what a truth table looks like. And it's a little simplified. Typically you do this with more columns and rows. But this is a great way to illustrate what we have when we use ifs and ands. If we talk about using a and inside of an if statement, and let me get some code here just to illustrate this. But if we had an if statement, and I wanted to test two numbers, right? Let's say I had double that's talking about two of these, and I wanted to test both of them, and I needed to make sure that they were both greater than 2. I could say this, DBL1 is greater than 2. Use our AND operator. Remember, that's a logical operator. And DBL2 is greater than 2. This would only fire if both of these were true. That's how AND statement works. If I changed 2 to say maybe 1, this statement would be false, and therefore the entire thing would be false. And so that's how we do that. We understand how this works. We understand that AND statements, everything has to be true. But let's put that inside of our truth table. These are two questions that we're testing. We go here and we talk about, well, let's see, if it's true and it's true, then this one's true. If it's true, but the other one is false, then the result is false. If it's false and true, it's false. And the last one, false and false, no, it's not true, it is also false. So it's a very limited set on what these actually turn out to be true, and that is both of them. But an OR is a little different. With the OR statement, when you're using it inside of ifs, only one of them has to be true. And so to kind of contrast it from the other one, if both are true, that one's easy. We got true. Oops. If I have true and false, well, this one is true, so we do get true on that one. If it's false and true, remember, only one has to be true. And then last, false and false, well, both are false, so then that is actually the only case when it's false. And if you kind of look at it, it's flip-flopped. Here, there's really only one situation where it can be false, and that's where everything is false. All the other situations where at least one variable is true, we have a true value. So when you're testing multiple things and you only need one to be true, that's when we use an OR. And in the situation of the program we're talking about, where only one password has to be true, it's a great fit. So I'm going to delete this stuff because we don't need it. And now this is what we're going to do. First, we're going to write the program in the sense that both passwords would have to be correct. So I'm going to add two text boxes. A bunch of labels. And then two buttons. Oops. Make them all large font so we can see what's going on. And then I'll go around and I'll fix all my naming and my text. Okay, this one's going to be txt password 1, going along with what the label has. And then txt password 2. LBL secret. ETN submit. ETN quit. Going in and doing my accept and cancel buttons. And then I will add my application exit on here. And then my code is going to go right in here. Now, we can add into these text boxes the ability to mask our input so that, you know, when you type in a login form, you get asterisks. But I'm going to add that in at the end because I want to make sure I'm typing it in right. If we're testing a program for passwords, usually you want to see. Otherwise, you might type something that you think you didn't and think that your program is broken. Okay. I have 2 passwords that I'm going to use because they're going to stay the same, at least for now. I'm going to declare them as constants. Remember, with constants, we use capitals and underscores in there. Got some good solid passwords here. Okay, now we're going to start out, and like I said, I want both of these to be matched before we show the secret. We should probably have a secret constant as well. All right. So this is going to show if they get that secret right, both of them. Okay, on our button submit, okay, so what we need is we have to collect the input from both. We have to test it if they are both accurate, and then we output the message. So I think 2 variables are going to be more than good enough. Oh, we forgot our convention here. I'm calling it user password 1 because it's so close to what we have for our constants that I want to make sure we keep it separate, that we know that that's coming from the user. Now, we started doing this last time, but we don't have to do this since we know we're going to get it from the input anyways, and because it's not a numeric piece of data, so why not just skip that step and say txt.password1.text, and we're going to help our users out, and we're going to say trim and pull any extra spaces off. We're going to help them out. and then this one's going to be password 2. Alright, so this is actually, we did them both, and we can move that up there because we did them both in the same step. Okay, well, what do we want to do? How do we match that both of them match the input? Well, we're going to use our if statement, and we're going to say if str user password 1 equals, it's our equality operator, and we stored that in our constant, so we say password 1. We need them both to be true. We need them both to be exact matches, so then I say and then str user password 2 equals password 2. Now we're kind of running out of room. Maybe your font isn't as big as mine. You can actually split that up on the and sign. If that's too hard to read, you know, leave it all in one line. That's fine. But a lot of people will like to split out their if statements because then they can see, oh yeah, both of these conditions are where it's at. Now that they've both been matched, we can say lbl secret dot text equals, and then our constant that had the secret in it. All right, let's run it and see what happens. All right, I don't remember my password here. What do we got? Secret test 1 2 3 4. And submit, and we did it. We got it right. Let's try it without. Well, we didn't overwrite this and we didn't have an else, so our program actually needs a little bit more. We know it works when it's supposed to. We should probably be handling it when it doesn't. So to prove that, we're going to start over, put in some bad words, and then let's try one right here. And it wasn't enough, but we should probably have some sort of message back out to the user. So we should have here, if one of these is false, that means the whole thing is false, so we're going to have an else statement. And we'll say lbl secret dot text equals one or more of the passwords were incorrect. Let's try it again. Let's do bad for both. Alright, let's fix one of them. This one was secret. Okay. We should probably clear this out on our text so we know something's happening. We test 1 2 3 4, and there we go. Okay, so we know that at least it seems like it's working. Some things we could probably do a little better with our interface, like after this, return focus back to that first text box. And then maybe do a select all. That'll add to that. And then on each of these, we should clear out the secret. And I'm going to copy this line so that when I do my text change for here, that works as well. So let's try again with our new and improved. We should probably clear that out. It will clear out, but on form load we should. Let's try it. Secret and test 1 2 3 4. Hit enter. Alright. If I type a little bit, it will clear that back out. So great. Let's clear that out on form load. I should still have that in my clipboard, so if I just right click and paste, there we go. Okay, we're ready. Well, on to fixing this so that only one of them has to be true. Well, that is actually very easy because the OR operator, this is the AND operator, the OR operator is like this. We say pipe, pipe. This key is above your enter key. It's normally a backslash, but if you hold shift down, you get this vertical line. We call that a pipe. Two pipes mean or. So what we're saying here is if string user password equals password1 or string user password equals password2. So only one of these has to be true. We should probably change our message and say one or more of the passwords is incorrect, because that's not the case now. If this is false, if both are false, it will fail, and we can say both of the passwords were incorrect. Alright, so let's try it just with one. Oops. That one won't work, because this one is secret. And this one was test. Okay, C# is the best. Or we can put junk in this one and then say right here, test 1, 2, 3, 4. And now it works. But now that we only need one of them to be accurate, we could probably change out our interface. Because, I mean, you wouldn't have one user use this text box and another user use this one. So we can probably get rid of this, both of them, and we'll see what that would look like. So I'm going to get rid of, and actually, you know what we can do is we can select both of these and change their visible property to false. Now, we can still see them on our form, but if I run it, actually they're gone. So I'll leave that in there in case any of you want to mess around with some of this code. We'd say that that code is deprecated now. We don't need it anymore. So I can even hide that off to the side. All right. So if you drag it over, you'll see that they're there. All right. Well, now what? Well, we don't want it to say password1. We'll just put password. And let's hit submit. So what would that look like? Well, now, because the user is just typing this into the first spot, we don't need this. And now we can say if string password1 equals password1, or since we're testing the same variable and they're only typing it in one spot, we're actually testing both of these. Because that password is either going to equal password1 or it's going to equal password2. They're only typing it into one text box. Alright, so I can type in, I can say secret, and that worked. I could say test 1, 2, 3, 4, and that works too. I could type in some junk, and that is not going to work. And that doesn't make sense. Both of the passwords are incorrect. We'll probably want to change that now. So let's change this and say you have entered an incorrect password. Alright, so we got secret, we got test 1, 2, 3, 4, and anything else, entered an incorrect password. Okay, now the nice thing about how we have this set up is that as it is now, we have two passwords. But what if we had more users? And I had password 3. And another one. We could quite easily add this on without making it too complicated. So if you see how we've already kind of did the line break thing here, I could hit enter and then just do the same thing, or string user password 1, and now test it for the next password. And then hit enter and do another one. Because the way ORs work is that it doesn't matter if there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 20. Only one of these has to turn out to be true. So if they get this one right, or this one right, or this one right, or this one right, the whole thing is going to evaluate to true, and then this code will execute. If they get none of these wrong, if this is false, if this is false, this, or this, all of them have to be false, and then we'll hit the else, and then we'll get the secret password. So ORs are kind of the opposite of ANDs, in that it's a lot more forgiving. If you only need one thing to make it through, then an OR is the right thing to do. If you need everything to be true, then in that case you would use an AND. Now before, we could have done the same thing. We could have done something similar. We could have said if string user password equals 1, else if string user password 1 equals password 2, else if string password 1 equals password 3, and it would have done the same thing. But we would have had to have put this line of code inside of every one of those else ifs to do something right like that. This way it sort of condenses the entire else if structure. If we only need one of them to be true, if it's all relatively the same outcome, then this is a great fit for that. Okay, so that is AND in comparison with OR. Feel free to use the truth table to help with that. I'll make that available as well. And between this and we would say that those are both logical operators. This would be a comparison operator, but this, and using the ampersand, would be considered a logical operator. They're both used inside of conditional statements, but this one is a logical operator, and this one would be a comparison, or specifically we say this is an equality operator.